So remember, our last bill, before we go back to 3768, is House File 2767, the Omnibus Liquor Bill. The bill came to us from the Commerce Committee. Vice Chair Olson, please move the bill and the author amendment for the author.
I move that House File 2767 be recommended for placement on the general register, and I also move the H 2767A13 amendment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Olson. Chair Stevenson, can you please explain the A13 amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is the Omnibus Liquor Bill. This amendment has several provisions in it. To begin with, there's some language that reflects a additional agreement between craft distillers and the wholesalers related to cocktail rooms to ensure some guardrails around that provision. We do have an appropriation that you can find on page 4. This reflects the fiscal note related to the direct wine shipping and adds money and staff to administer that program to AGED. Then there are 2 local projects that were not considered by the Commerce Committee until after this bill left the Commerce Committee. One related to a social district in Anoka and one related to a softball complex in Rochester.
Okay, are there any questions on the A13 amendment? Seeing no further questions, the A13 amendment is before us. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. So House File 2767 as amended is before us. Please tell us about your bill with a focus on the fiscal impact.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, as I mentioned, this is the Omnibus Liquor Bill. It reflects a long set of compromise discussions that have been occurring over the last year to try and modernize Minnesota's liquor laws, particular emphasis on craft distillers and craft brewers, while maintaining the important consumer protections and safety protections that are in Minnesota's liquor laws. And it has been a difficult balance to strike. It is a compromise. I don't know of anyone who is thrilled with it, except for that I am thrilled that we have completed it. But that's the nature of compromise. Everyone gets a little something. No one is exactly very happy with it. From a fiscal, and I won't go through all of the various provisions in the bill, just to say that I think there's some very good and important changes here that will allow Minnesotans to more thoroughly enjoy the craft spirits and beer that they love. From a fiscal perspective, there's 2 appropriations in the bill to 2 different appropriations to AGED. I mentioned the one that we added by amendment that relates to direct shipping of wine. The other is just a general addition of 2 inspectors. AGED is already understaffed, and this bill, as I mentioned, expands the amount of craft opportunities for craft brewers and distillers, and so it makes sense to increase their staffing to accomplish that. There's also an appropriation to the Department of Revenue to handle the tax consequences of the direct wine shipping bill, but the total cost to the general fund in this biennium is less than $1 million.
All right, thank you. Members, for your reference, this bill is also being tracked in the other bills category that was in the budget resolution. Is that correct, Ms. Adrian?
Yes, Madam Chair. The funding for this bill has been accounted for.
Okay, so let's move on to the other amendments. Representative Nash, you submitted 3 amendments to this bill. Unless you have a preference, can we start with the A15?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we'll just move numerically, and I believe these are friendly amendments, so I will not be roll calling them. The chair put into his bill a kind of a council of people who are representing the different parts of the 3-tier system, and after I spoke with some of my folks and some other members, they brought forward a desire for farm wineries to be reflected on that council, so I would move the A15 amendment to include farm wineries in that as well.
All right, thank you. Chair Stevenson.
Representative Nash is correct. This is a friendly amendment. I'd ask for a yes vote.
Okay, any questions or comments on the A15? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion prevails, and the amendment is adopted. Okay, Representative Nash, would you like to move to the A16?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move the A16, and this puts a seat on that group for a food retailer or a convenience store so that the discussion can become a robust one and have representation of people who've got a vested interest in this. So once again, friendly amendment, and I move the A16.
Chair Stevenson.
Madam Chair, Representative Nash is correct. Friendly amendment, ask for a yes vote.
All right. Any questions to the A16? Okay, seeing no questions to the A16, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, we do have a question. Representative Sundin.
No, my hand's not up. That was an aye vote.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Okay, Representative Nash, we'd like to move on to the A17.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The A17 is an amendment to put one last member on there, and it is to allow for equal numbers and put somebody from the wholesaler group on there so that numbers are in equal and we achieve parity. Once again, in speaking with the chair, this is a friendly amendment, so I will not be roll calling it.
Chair Stevenson.
Yes, Madam Chair, and Representative Nash is once again correct. It is a friendly amendment. There is one thing I just want to put on the record here. On line 1.2 of this amendment, it changes 9 to 10. That's the whole council moves from 9 to 10 if we adopted just this amendment, but we've adopted two others. So it should be from 9 to 12. I spoke to Mr. Clayman from House Research in the audience while we were considering other bills. About whether we need to do an oral amendment. He communicated with the revisor's office, and it's understood that the revisor can make that as a technical correction as they're preparing the committee report. That, I just want, should be probably the intent of the committee, that it should be 12, not 10, since we've adopted all three of these, or you've adopted, hopefully, all three of these amendments.
Yep.
And Madam Chair, that was going to be my request at the conclusion that we direct staff to make the numerical corrections so that we don't have 10 at every tier, because too many cooks in the kitchen then become problematic. But yes, that is correct.
Okay, so we have that technical correction from 10 to 12. Thank you. Representative Petersburg,
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was my
to the
question.
A17. Okay, great. Okay, seeing no further question, the A17 amendment is before us. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Great job. So Member House File 2767 as amended is before us. Any questions of the author? Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Chair. More of a comment. Mr. Chair, as you know, I have provisions in this, and then provisions are in this bill that I authored even before you got here. I want members to understand, and Representative Olson will back me up on this, this has been a long process. And we are at an incredibly notable place right now, because not only I've carried the liquor bill before, and all these provisions were in it before, but we now have buy-in from all the interested parties. And Representative Olson and I tried that, and we're oftentimes deflected for mysterious and unknown reasons, sometimes just, well, we don't feel like it, but we are now there. So we have members of the three-tier system in agreement that this is the bill that we should be moving forward. It is a compromise, members. That is an incredible thing to be looking at, because, as much as I don't want to talk about IT issues in the future down the road, to not have to talk about changing our archaic liquor laws allows me to go find another hobby legislatively. This is something that, if you follow me on social media, you'll know that I have crisscrossed this state doing videos about freeing the growler and videos about distillers needing help and craft beverage manufacturers needing help. Well, help has arrived, and I am pleased to be a part of this because the chair has actually allowed me to assist. This is great. This is what people expect of us here when they send us down here, because when you talk to people back in the district or across the state, they don't understand why they can't do something as simple as buy a growler at some breweries, but not others. Or why they can't buy a large bottle of liquor at a distillery because the forces that be previously have said, no, we don't get to do that. And I'm pleased that we are now addressing the 3-2 town team issue because last year was a bad year for town team and beer at the state tournaments. This is a good bill, and I fully support it, and I think Vice Chair Olson would as well. This is phenomenal work. We just have to pray that that other mysterious body does their job as well, because the admonition has always been, bring a bill that has the consensus of all the stakeholders out there, and the Senate would move it. Well, here you go. This is it. So, members, I think this is a good bill. This is a good piece of compromise. I've been a part of conversations. We've talked with all the different interested parties. Sometimes we have to go back and forth several times and revisit things because tempers run hot, but this is a good bill. Please vote yes. I will be. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Johnson.
Chair Moran, Representative Stevenson, thank you for this bill. I have a tough time with alcohol bills, and as a brother who's a alcoholic and has major health issues because of it, working as a deputy sheriff, cleaning up the fatal DWI crashes, going to the thousands of domestics over my career, where I can count on one finger where alcohol was not involved. So I have a tough time with any alcohol onto this bill. There's one issue that I was concerned about in this bill. I want to make sure that it's in it. There was recently a lawsuit dealing with the distributors, where if we don't fix that, each particular brand can have their own, trying to think of the word for it, but there's just one single provider across the state. And where it's happened in other states, it's skyrocketed the cost of alcohol. Is that fixed in this bill, Representative Stevenson?
Chair Stevenson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Johnson, it is. That's the Coleman Act fix. It is a very important issue. I agree with your analysis, and I'm just paging through the bill so I can direct you to it, but it is in here, yes.
Representative Johnson.
Chairman and Representative Stevens, thank you for getting that fixed. That was an issue that I did have a number of people come and contact me about. And I do understand some of these softball complexes with the tournaments and stuff they have, they'd like to have that liquor license. But I'd like to see a little more guardrails around it. When there's youth softball tournaments, no alcohol sales, and things like that, something to look at or consider down the road. But I think overall it's a fair bill, but because of the situation I have, I cannot support it.
All right. Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question. Seems like the only emails I get from people back home is, how come we can't have other than 3-2 beer in convenience stores? And it seems like that's the issue, and I think we're the only state that only allows 3-2 beer in convenience stores. Has that been resolved in this bill? Because I don't remember seeing it in the bill anywhere.
Chair Stevenson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Petersburg, no, that issue is not resolved by this bill. Representative Nash kind of gave you the reason why. It's because we had to reach consensus. And so there just is not going to be consensus on that issue anytime soon.
All right, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was the question I was going to ask.
okay.
Big for my community. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Okay, seeing no further discussion, any closing comments?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Nash. I've enjoyed working with you on this bill. Look forward to continuing working with you and other members. Representative O'Driscoll has also been very involved from the Minority Caucus, and of course, Vice Chair Olson on this committee is been a great partner on it. So this has been a real collaborative, bipartisan effort that reaches compromise. I think Representative Nash said, well, that this is what people want us to do at the legislature. So I'd ask for your yes vote on the bill.
All right, I have no doubt, Representative Nash and Olson, the work that you've done so diligently before this is why we're here at this moment. So thank you for your work on this. So Vice Chair Olson renews her motion that House File 2767 as amended be recommended for placement on the general register. Ms. Anna, please take the roll.
Chair Moran.
Aye.
Moran, aye. Vice Chair Olson.
Aye.
Olson, aye. Representative Garofalo.
Garofalo, aye.
Garofalo, aye. Representative Albright. Albright, aye. Representative Becker-Finn.
Aye.
Becker-Finn, aye. Representative Bernardi.
Aye.
Bernardi, aye. Representative Eklund.
Aye.
Eklund, aye. Representative Hanson, excused. Representative Hassan. Representative Hertas, excused. Representative Hornstein, excused. Representative Johnson.
No.
Johnson, no. Representative Prisha, excused. Representative Liebling.
Aye.
Liebling, aye. Representative Lilly.
Lily, aye.
Lilly, aye. Representative Mariani, excused. Representative Markort.
Aye.
Markort, aye. Representative Miller, excused. Representative Nash.
Aye.
Nash, aye. Representative Nelson.
Aye.
Nelson, aye. Representative Noor, excused. Representative O'Neill.
I'm here. Aye.
O'Neill, aye. Representative Plowski.
Pulaski, aye.
Plowski, aye. Representative Petersburg.
Aye.
Petersburg, aye. Representative Pinto.
Aye.
Pinto, aye. Representative Schumacher.
Schumacher, no.
Schumacher, no. Representative Schultz. Aye. Schultz, aye. Representative Scott, excused. Representative Sundin.
Aye.
Sundin, aye. And Representative Hassan. Madam Chair, that is 18 ayes and 2 nays.
There have been 18 ayes and 2 nays. The motion prevails. House File 2767 as amended is recommended for placement on the general register. Thank you, Chair Stevenson.
Thank you.